Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. King Charles III's state visit to France has been postponed after a request by President Emmanuel Macron.
L'intersyndicale a annoncé une nouvelle journée de mobilisation mardi.
I think it wouldn't have been serious of us and we'd have lacked common sense, said Mr Macron at a news conference. The trip to Paris and Bordeaux had been due to begin on Sunday, but France saw some of the worst violence on Thursday since demonstrations began in January. Buckingham Palace said the delay was due to the situation in France. In a statement, it said, "Their Majesties greatly look forward to the opportunity to visit France as soon as dates can be found." India's parliament has disqualified the senior opposition leader Rahul Gandhi a day after he was sentenced to 2 years in prison in a defamation case. A parliament notice said that Mr Gandhi stands disqualified from the membership of Lok Sabha, alluding to the lower house of parliament. He was convicted by the court for 2019 comments about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's surname at an election rally. Mr Gandhi was a Congress Party MP from Wayanad in the state of Kerala. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met the British Prime Minister despite growing protests in Israel.
Mr Netanyahu, your own Attorney General says you're breaking the law.
The Israeli Prime Minister was greeted by shouting and whistling from hundreds of protesters outside 10 Downing Street as opposition to his judicial overhaul followed him to London. Netanyahu then shook hands with Rishi Sunak before going inside number 10 for talks. It's as Israelis take to the streets protesting against the government's overhaul of the court system. Drone footage showed thousands of protesters marching in the ultra-Orthodox city of Bnei Brak. Weeks after a violent crackdown on migrants in Tunisia that triggered a perilous rush to leave by smuggler boats for Italy, many African nationals are still homeless and jobless, and some say they still face racist attacks. Outside the United Nations Refugee Agency in Tunis, dozens of African migrants stood protesting this week by the temporary camp where they had lived, including 2 children, since authorities urged landlords to force them from their homes. In announcing the crackdown, President Kais Saied said illegal immigration was a criminal conspiracy to change Tunisia's demography, language the African Union described as racialized hate speech.
Tunisia is not safe. Here in Tunisia, no one will have a future once you have in this color, this color, this color. Is it a crime to have this color? Is this a crime? You can't have access to have an apartment, even if you have money. You can't have access to have an apartment. So it makes no sense. We have been sleeping in the streets with our children, and we are exposed to all kinds of attacks.
The first major wildfire of the year in Spain continues to rage, having destroyed more than 3,000 hectares of forest and forcing 1,500 residents to abandon their homes. Firefighters using 18 aeroplanes and helicopters worked throughout the night and into Friday to tackle the fire near the village of Villanueva de Viva in the eastern region of Valencia. While firefighters believed they were managing to control the spread of the fire, strong winds could reactivate it. Spain is experiencing a long-term drought after 36 months of below-average rainfall. And a Russian veteran voyager and explorer has lifted off on a record-breaking hot air balloon flight. Fyodor Konyukov and fellow balloonist Ivan Menyalo took off from the Murmansk region on a planned non-stop flight to Russia's eastern Siberian region, an estimated distance of 2,500 kilometers. The aim of the non-stop hot air balloon flight is to challenge 2 world records at once, to break the current flight distance record of 2,360 kilometers set in 1997, and to take the record for the longest hot air balloon flight, which was set by Konyukov and Menyalo themselves back in 2017. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.